Let's go, people. Let's go, family. All right, all right. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. We haven't even started at all, and we're getting so much like so much persons currently on night viewing. But yes, amazing, amazing, amazing. It's always exciting every time I have to go live and we have these face to face conversations. Although I wish we would have more persons who are open and are able to converse more. But I mean, we'll be getting there. We're getting there gradually, little by little, we get there. But yes, we are live and welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to this session. I've been announcing to my community, I've been announcing to my friends. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about a very exciting subject, and don't bother too much. We're going to be here for a while. We're going to be here for a long while. I'm going to try as much as possible to stay here with you and try to disseminate as much information as I can. And for those that are going to be watching offline as well, you could also follow us and put on the notification bell so you can be notified every time we come online like this. But yes, amazing, amazing. All right, so there's just so much I want to talk about, and I think I will try and take it bit by bit, so that we can try and pass as much information as we can. But there's so much I want to talk about. Yeah, but let me start from here. So we're talking about the topic, the reality of adulthood, the reality of adulthood, your 20s and your 30s, what your 20s and your 30s really feels like. And you see, it's been a subject on my mind so dearly, it's been something on my mind so much that I want everyone to be informed. I want everyone to be informed, everyone to be aware, everyone to be awakened of the realities of our 20s and our 30s. I mean, for every young person, for every person is in their 20s, in their 30s, you realize that there's just so much. It's like as if you wake up in another world, in another universe, and you before you realize, you start to see that so much has changed, so much has changed around you. I mean, you've become this person that was not you a couple of years ago. I mean, the current you now is quite different from the person you were a couple of years ago. And you see, there's so much that comes with it, so much that comes with you gradually growing up. And if you've heard me several times, I've said our 20s and our 30s are times for us to build. This period or this season of our lives is a period for us to build, for us to develop ourselves. And before I go on, if you're just joining us, just drop your name in the comment section, your name and where you are joining from. My name is Temitope Ajayi, and welcome to another exciting live session. All right, so I was talking about how that our 20s and our 30s are a season for us to build, a season for us to grow. But you see, the problem is that many persons don't realize this, and we don't realize it early. You see, many persons are used to the lives of being told what to do. I mean, many of us are used to being told what to do. We want to be ordered around, we want to be bossed around. And sometimes when we are much younger, maybe a teenager of some sort, you want to be rebellious. You want to become rebellious and you don't want to listen to what anyone is saying, which is a normal phase of our life. I mean, everyone goes through one phase or the other. Everyone goes through that phase of their lives. And eventually you start to see that you go to college, you spend a couple of years in college, you are still reliant on family, on parents, and at some point as well, you then move on from there, you try to find a job, and it feels like as if all of this journey is systematic, all of these things are predefined, which is kind of the reality of many persons. But there are also some other persons that wants to fight their current reality. I mean, persons that have big mindsets. They have success mindsets. They want to do great things for themselves. They want to become successful. They want to start a business. They want to become an athlete. They want to become a celebrity. They want to do all sorts of things. And this is also the period where they start to realize their giftings. They start to realize what they can or cannot do. And all of these things start to come on us. And it becomes just so much. It becomes so much to process. You see, many persons find difficulties trying to process all of this. You see, it gets to a point where you need to be responsible for your family, you need to be responsible for yourself, you need to say, find yourself a job. And someone is telling you, oh, find yourself a job. You need to get yourself a job. You need to do something for yourself. You need to become something for yourself. And we start to hear phrases like this, start to hear adults You start to hear our parents telling us, oh, you can't just spend the whole day goofing around. You have to do something good for yourself. You have to do something crucial for yourself, and several other things like that. And it becomes a phase where it becomes so challenging, becomes so tough. You see lots of young persons going for therapies, lots of young persons trying to figure out life. You see, we just move around trying to figure out what's next, what's the next big thing for ourselves. I mean, we've passed through college, we've passed through the high school, we've done all of these things, and we've gotten to the point where we're asking ourselves, what's the next big thing? What's the next big thing for us? And I think it's been something more of a personal journey for me because I've experienced all of these things back and over. You see, growing up, I used to have parents who used to be very strict. I mean, my parents used to be very strict. They want to be involved in every single aspect of my life. Of course, I'm not denying the fact that, of course, they are parents. They have that much right to be involved in every single aspect of my life. But it got to a point where I realized that I had so much over reliance. I couldn't do anything much without trying to involve them. And of course, this was good at the first instance. This was good at the beginning. But then, as I gradually grew up, I knew that I had to become responsible for myself. I mean, how would you say you're a young person, you're in your 20s, you're in your 30s, and you are still living in your parents' basement? I mean, I mean, some people still do that. I don't blame them. Some people found startups from there. Some people do all sorts of things from there. But I mean, but you are living with your parents, you're living off your parents, you are in your 20s, you're in your 30s, and you are not doing anything vital for yourself, you're not doing anything crucial for yourself. You are not starting a business, you are not doing a job, you're not working a job, you are just living off them like that parasite that is living off his host. And I mean, just start to ask yourself the question. I'm sure you'll be asking yourself the question at some point that I want to do better for my life. Really, I want to do something good for my life. And let's even say you are not living with your parents, maybe you are squatting with relatives, you are living with friends and things like that. I mean, but I know that at one point or the other, you've told yourself or you've asked yourself, I want to do something crucial for my life. I want to do something good for my life. Today, I'm going to be talking about 10 different outlines, 10 different things that really matters in the lives of persons in your 20s and your 30s. You see, this period of transitioning, you realizing what you want for your life, you realizing what you want to do for your life. You see, there are several things that you need to start to look out for. And immediately you start to understand the differences between these things. You start to realize what you should be doing against what you are currently doing. And for everyone, I think that for everyone, you should be able to do a sort of gap analysis. I mean, examine your life right now, examine what you're currently doing, where you currently are. What are the things that you want to do for yourself? Where do you want to find yourself? Where do you want to see yourself? What is your current reality? I mean, sometimes I used to dream of myself being a very rich person. Maybe I have lots of money. I own lots of businesses. I mean, I still dream of myself like that today, but I never took any action. So of course, I started to come back to myself, I started to realize that, man, I need to start doing something for myself. I need to start doing something crucial for myself. And that led me on the self discovery journey. That led me on the journey of trying to figure out myself and who exactly I am. And I mean, you can do the same thing for yourself. You can do the same thing for yourself. You just need to realize yourself. You need to find out who you are. And I mean, it's a journey of self discovery. It doesn't end. I mean, think about it. Think about it. It doesn't just stop when you discover. It doesn't just stop when you do the analysis. It's something that is recurring, something that keeps happening every single time. Think of it this way. You do a gaps analysis at the beginning of the year. You look at where you are, you analyze where you are currently and where you want to be. And then next year as well, or say middle of the year, you've made some progress. Maybe you started doing some things you said you wanted to do. You started making some progress. Then you realize that, oh man, I think I still need to do some more. I have some potentials. I need to do some more. What are the things that I can do to push me from where I currently am to doing more? You start to analyze. That's how you do some gap analysis for yourself. So if you are learning something tonight, type I'm learning, I'm learning, I'm learning. If you're learning something tonight, type I'm learning, I'm learning, I'm learning. Type I'm learning, I'm learning, I'm learning. All right, amazing. We have, if you're just joining us, try and type in your name. Tell us where you are joining from, your name, what country you're joining from. Like I said, my name is Temitope. I'm from Nigeria. Yes, I think I should deviate a bit. Contrary to what people think about Nigerians, I've heard some weird persons talk about Nigeria as a sort of third world country and things like that. But I mean, there's a lot of amazing things about Nigeria. There's a lot of amazing things I can talk about. Talk about the people, talk about the culture, talk about several things. Of course, we have some bad eggs. We have some bad eggs, which is pretty much normal. But I think overall, we are We are really good people. We are really good people if you get to know us more. I've seen many celebrities who come to Nigeria who influence. Bill Gates was here last year. Aisha Speed was here a couple of weeks back, and several other celebrities who come. And I mean, if you'd ask them, I think it's been a good experience. So back to the subject. Back to the subject. The reality of your adulthood. The reality of your adulthood. What exactly should your adulthood look like? What did you envision your adulthood to look like? I know that many persons, when I know that many persons, when they first started, maybe they thought of, I don't know, maybe some persons thought of adulthood being like that phase of your life where you are predominantly the one in charge, which of course is true. I mean, you are the one in charge of your life. You have to be in charge of your life anyways. Otherwise, then you're just wasting your time. But many persons think of adulthood as a phase of our lives where we are predominantly in charge. We are the ones that determine when to go to sleep, when not to go to sleep, or the ones that determine what to do at what point, or the ones that determine several things like that. So, if it's a predominant phase of your life, then ask yourself the question: what value does your predominant phase have? What value does your life have? What value do you have to offer? I think everyone in life needs to ask themselves the question: what value do I have to offer? Because if you don't have any value to offer, then you haven't even started. You haven't even started. You see, the turning point from when you are young to when you become an adult is when you start to realize that I have responsibility. I need to be someone of value in the society. And when I mean value, you can have different kinds of values. Maybe you have economic value. Maybe you are someone that's important in the society. Maybe you have political value. Maybe you have employee value. Maybe you have business value. All sorts of values. The question is, what kinds of values do you have? What kinds of values do you have in your society? I mean, you can always ask yourself that question every single time. So you call yourself an adult. I mean, what value are you passing on to your society? What are you giving to your society? Some persons spend all their lives trying to work as an employee. Of course, they contribute to the organization. They contribute so much. They give so much. I mean, that's value. That's value for them. But my question to you now is, what kinds of value are you contributing? What kinds of value do you have? So I'll be going to some of the outlines, some of the things I have written down here. And the first one I wrote down here is the illusion versus reality of adulthood. What you thought it would be like versus what it actually is. And I mean, I'm already talking about this, right? I'm already talking about this. Many a times we think of adulthood as a phase of our lives where not just being predominantly the one in charge, we think of it as a phase where everything starts to get easy. I mean, we think of it as a phase where we start to make money. If you want to buy something, you can buy something. If you want to do something, you can do something. You are essentially in charge of your life. But for many persons who've been adults for years now, you realize that it's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, it's hard trying to hustle, trying to get food on the table, trying to pay the bills, trying to do all those kind of things. I mean, it's very hard. It can get really difficult. It can get really challenging for many adults. Many persons have it easier than others, really. I won't dispute that fact. But for some persons have it really hard. Some persons have to work two, three, four, five jobs. I mean, I had someone working five jobs in the UK just trying to make by, just trying to get by. I know persons who are not just working jobs, they are also trying to get more certifications and different things like that, just to ensure that they are able to feed their family or put food on the table. There's so much work being put out there, guys. So much, so much being put out there. And say, for example, someone who has an extended family, you have several children, you have your wife to feed, and maybe you have an extended family that's also dependent on you. I mean, let me deviate a bit. In Africa, we have this culture of wanting to carry your family along, your extended family. You become responsible for your extended family, particularly when you are the firstborn. When you are the firstborn, you are demanded by culture to not just care for your immediate family, I mean your siblings, your parents, you send them money, you send your siblings money. You also care for your extended family, I mean your uncles, your aunties, even your uncles and your aunties' children. It's really weird, really. I mean, some of these persons, you've never met them all your life, but you are required by culture to care for all of these persons. And you see, when it comes to responsibility or adulting in Nigeria and Africa, it can get so tough for some persons. It can get so tough for some persons that they feel so constrained. They feel so constrained because there's just so much responsibility. There's so much things to do. I mean, you're asking yourself, how do I even put food on my own table? How do I get to feed myself? How do I get to pay the bills? And think of it, the value of housing these days is really expensive. Some persons in other countries are being charged crazy amount of tax. I mean, you're working and the government is taking away all the money. You're working and bills is taking away all the money. If you look at it eventually at the end of the month, how much do you have left? You have just a few dollars, a few cents left. And you start to ask yourself, man, where did all this money go? I mean, you hustled 9 to 5, or you even did extra hours just to ensure that you get some extra cash. But then you realize all of these things just go down the drain. That's the reality of our adulthood. I mean, we always thought of it as you having extra money in hand, but really we realize now that adulthood is not just you having the extra funds at hand. Adulthood also involves you having so much responsibility to do. And I also try to define the African kind of responsibility, the African thoughts about responsibility, how that Africans are required by culture to constantly do things for even family members that they don't know, which can be very weird, can be very weird. I think another reality that I've seen against what we thought it was that we thought that life would be easy. Let me explain what I mean. Now, when I say we thought that life would be easy, many of us, while growing up, we already had plans for our lives. We had plans for, say, we want to do X, Y, Z immediately we get out of college. We already have a job we are eyeing, we have a job we want to get, we have maybe a business we want to start, we have several things we want to do. But you realize that life happens to everyone. Life suddenly happens to you, and everything just comes crumbling down. Really, say for example, you promised yourself you're going to get a job, or you wanted to get a job, and you then realize that, man, this job is not forthcoming. You keep applying, 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 you keep getting rejections. Rejections is like the reality of adulthood. It's bread and butter for many adults. Rejections is bread and butter for many adults. Many adults start to realize that, man, all of these things that I thought was it eventually turned out not to be so. Sometimes some of us have our dream jobs. We have our dream jobs. We have, maybe we planned, we said to ourselves that maybe when I leave college, I'm going to get this particular job. This is the job I'm eyeing. And you find out that 3, 4, 5 years, you still spend time chasing these jobs without getting it. I mean, it's a very common story in Africa. You see many persons, many graduates, first class, graduates who have masters, who have PhD, who are jobless. I mean, these guys are jobless, literally doing nothing and becoming non-entities in the society. You just realize that a bunch of these guys are out there. And when we were much younger, we always thought to ourselves that, man, if I go to college, if I have my masters, if I have my PhD, trust me, my job is guaranteed. But then the system is broken. The system is broken. Everything that we thought was true is no longer true. The system has become so much broken that we cannot see the things that we used to see before. Many, many years back, we used to have different kinds of things in place already. Say, for example, someone is graduating out of college, maybe you have a job already waiting for you, your parents were able to help you secure a gig somewhere, and several things like that. Even so, for some persons in some countries that has less structure, of course, I understand countries like maybe the US or UK, but in some countries with less structure, you start to realize that, man, all of these things is broken down. All of these things are not there anymore. And this is one of the biggest realities I've come to realize. Many persons feel that these things are in place for us already, but you now come to realize that these things are not there. These things are not as we thought they would be. It's a huge reality. It's a huge letdown. It's a huge letdown for many persons. And I think it's one of the things that causes many persons to just keep going downhill. I mean, when you try so much, you try so hard, and you keep failing at that thing you are trying at. You keep trying, 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 but you keep failing at that thing that you think you are trying at or you are being good at. You realize that, man, I think at this point I should just give up. Giving up is like very easy. It comes very easy to us. It comes very easy because life itself is so challenging. Life itself, it's so discomforting. It gets so bad, really. It gets so bad. And sometimes I look at some persons who have tried so much. They have tried so much in their lives, but eventually realize that the things that they are trying at, they are not getting the results that they expect. They are not getting the results that they want. Eventually, they turn out to be non-entities. They turn out to be, maybe, say, thieves or several things like that. In Nigeria, we have this group of internet princes that we call Yahoo boys. We call them Yahoo boys in Nigeria. Essentially, I don't blame these guys. I don't blame these guys really. Not that what they are doing is good. I'm not supporting what they are doing in any way. But then you realize that they don't have the strength, they don't have the learning, they are not learned enough to know what to do next. They're not learned enough to know what to do for themselves, and they have lots of responsibilities, lots of bills, so much on them, so much that they have to deliver on. And this is a huge reality in our 20s and in our 30s. This is a huge reality. This is a huge turning point when we are turning into adulthood. If you are learning something, type in I'm learning, I'm learning, I'm learning. If you're learning, type in I'm learning, I'm learning, I'm learning. Then I still have 9 more outlines. I still have 9 more outlines. So I think there's still lots of stuff to discuss, lots of stuff to talk about. And really, you can just start to pick what relates to you. You start to pick what relates to you. I think another, which is the second and also vital, is the pressure of time. The pressure of time. You realize that when you start to get older, there is time gets to become against you. I mean, you are getting older. There is no time to meet up with some of the things that you said you want to do. Say for example, I wrote here, I feel like you are left behind. You have friends who have started achieving stuff, they started getting big jobs, they've started their businesses, they are doing several things that looks really big for them. And you start to feel left behind. You start to feel like, man, this I wish this were me. I wish this was me. Because this was the life I dreamed. This was what I dreamed of. And then you start to work so hard. You start to do so much. But you feel left behind. You feel left behind. If you've ever felt left behind before, at any point in your adulthood, just either drop a like, or type in I felt left behind. I felt left behind. I felt left behind. If you've ever felt left behind before, you can either drop a like or type in I felt left behind, I felt left behind, I felt left behind. All right, is anyone typing? Oh, amazing. I guess no one has felt left behind. But really, I think this is some of the realities of some persons. Some persons feel left behind in life because we feel that some of the things that I want to do, some of the things I promised myself I was going to do, I do end up doing some of those things. Why? Because they life can be so difficult. You see, there's this common phrase in Nigeria that says, life is in stages, men are in phases. What that means is that there are different phases of life that you experience as a person. And someone might be in his own next phase while you are still struggling with your own current phase. It doesn't mean that you won't get there. It doesn't mean that you won't achieve what that person has achieved. It just means that you have to take your time to build. And many young persons trivialize building. Really, I'll talk about this a bit. When we talk about building, what do we mean by building? I've said this thing over and over again. Even at the start of this life, I said it that building is very fundamental, it's very pivotal for anyone in his 20s or in his 30s. This is our time to build. What are you building exactly? This time for you to build character. This time for you to build yourself. This time for you to build your learning. This is time for you to build every single aspect of your life. You need to spend so much time building yourself up. And I mean, what are the benefits of you building? It's not just about you having all of this information, having all of these things, but you start to position your success. You start to position yourself for the right things that you want. Say, for example, you have a career, you started a career, you're starting to gradually push around your career. You start to push on your career. There are certifications you need to earn. Earn those things. Now is the time that you are strong. Now is the time that you are agile. Now is the time that you can do several things at the same time and not feel tired. Now is the time where you can really hustle. Now is the time you can walk around, do several jobs, do several things like that. As you start to get older, it starts to get even much more difficult, and building becomes very slow. I mean, in your 40s, in your 50s, these are times where you need to gradually start to slow down. You need to start to slow down and re-examine your life. How far have you walked? I mean, this does not mean that you can't start building in your 40s. No, many persons have built in their 40s. But the best time is now. The best time is now. And the next best time is when you are realizing this. So, if you are not building, then there is something wrong. So you realize that many persons are not building and they feel pressured about time. They feel pressured about the fact that they are not able to get to a position or get to a phase in their lives where they are achieving the same kinds of things that their friends are achieving. We start to compare ourselves with friends. We start to compare ourselves with our fellows. We start to compare ourselves with our colleagues. And we start to think of, man, why can't I be like this person? Why can't I be like that person? Envy starts to set in, jealousy starts to set in, several things like that. You start to think of, oh, how can I do better? How can I get better? You see, many persons even get so diabolic. Many persons get to become so wicked that they start to plot the downfall of other persons. I mean, there's no need plotting the downfalls of other person. There's no need trying to pull someone down. What you need to do is you need to figure out the plan for your life. You need to pick up the reins for your life and start to figure out your life. If you're learning something, type in I'm learning, I'm learning, I'm learning. If you're learning, type in I'm learning, I'm learning, I'm learning. If you're learning something, type in I'm learning, I'm learning, I'm learning. If you're just joining, please drop your name and where you're joining us from. My name is Temitope Ajayi and welcome to this live session. All right, amazing. So we're talking about the realities of adulthood, and I'm going to be sharing with us 10 different outlines. I've shared two already. I've shared two outlines of some of those realities that we come into when we gradually step into the phase of adulthood. One is the reality versus our illusion. What we used to think adulthood was versus what adulthood currently is. The next one I talked about is the pressure of time. How that many persons are pressured to build, many persons are pressured to develop themselves so much that they start to do things that are not in line with their values or characters or goals or things like that. Now, the third one is the financial reality. And this is where it starts to get tricky. The financial reality. You see that many persons, excuse me, give me 1 second. All right, so the financial reality. Many persons start to realize that our finance starts to become a huge determinant factor. You know, I was explaining earlier that for some persons they start to work 3, 4, 5 jobs. And I mean you could relate with this. Maybe you have families, you have friends, you have loved ones who are currently working 3, 4, 5 jobs. This is something very relatable. You have persons who are doing so much just to meet up with finance. I mean, the weight of responsibility is so much, and they have to work. Some have to work overnight. Some have to work several kinds of shifts just to ensure that they're able to make enough. I mean, housing is expensive. Bills are expensive, utilities are expensive, food is expensive, all of those kinds of things are expensive, and you still have to keep up. You realize that, man, at this point, how can you keep up with all of these things? How can you keep up with all of these things? The cost of living is getting really high. And as you gradually start to step into adulthood, you start to step into the realization that this is not what we thought it was. There is so much that I need for survival. You see, there are some persons who maybe went into debt just to sponsor their high school, or went into debt just to sponsor their college days. And after college, they have to start facilitating some of this debt. They have to start paying some of this debt off. You have to realize that many persons are thrown into debt. Many persons are thrown into several kinds of confusion, just trying to survive, just trying to meet up. Many persons are doing all sorts of things, just trying to meet up. And how will you then fault someone who is doing everything he can just to survive? How will you fault someone who has no time to listen to you, or has no time to chat to you, or has no time to call you, just because he's trying to survive himself? I mean, some persons start to blame their friends. They start to accuse their friends that you have no time for me since we left college. You didn't reach out, you didn't talk, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. But how you fault these guys when these guys are trying to chase their lives? They're trying to get out of debt. They're trying to get out of the problems that they got themselves into. They're trying to find a balance for themselves for adulthood. So you start to ask yourself questions like this: what exactly is my financial reality? Even as a young person, gradually stepping into the face of adulthood, what is my financial reality? I mean, am I currently financially stable? Am I not financially stable? Am I someone who is still struggling financially? Do I have debts I'm facilitating? Do I have different things I'm trying to keep up with? What is your financial reality? And the truth is that many persons don't want to come to the realization of the truth. You don't want to accept the reality. Some persons even try to hide it, which I don't blame them for. I mean, I don't blame them for it, because we don't want to be faulted by so much. We don't want to be faulted by all of these things. So we try to hide ourselves. We try to cover all these things or put them behind us. But the reality is that this is our reality. I mean, you have these problems. These problems cannot just suddenly disappear. You have to do something about it. You see, a couple of months back, I was learning about how you can get out of debt, because I think a while back I fell into bad debt. I made a video about it a couple of months ago, and you can check on my YouTube channel and find that video how I'm getting out of bad debt. So I fell into bad debt, and it was a result of me trying to get something done. And when I, man, it wasn't fun. It wasn't a cool period in my life. It was a tough session. And before I realized it, I fell into so much debt that I had to look for how to pay it. I mean, different persons were dragging me. This person was dragging me from here. That person was dragging me from there. I had to come up with a strategy. I had to come up with an approach in which I can gradually start to get out of my bad debts. And gradually, I had to sync up with every single person. I told them, see, I know I'm currently owing you. I'm owing you X amount. I'm owing you this amount. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do X, Y, Z. I'm going to pay you monthly. This is how much I'm earning. This is how much I can give you from this. Of course, I need to balance myself and several things like that. You have to take conscious action. I mean, that's my point. You have to take conscious action for your finance. Finance are, I mean, it might be different for persons who are, say, you have your parents who are much wealthy, or maybe they are rich and they are well to do. Of course, you have all of those things sorted. But for some persons who are thrown into the life of survivor, you have to get your finances straight. You have to get your finances straight. And this does not mean that you have to start doing all sorts of diabolical, all sorts of illegal things. No, you have to get your finances straight. And how can you do that? You have to properly plan for your finances. You have to properly plan for your finances. And this is a huge financial reality. For some persons, it's about earning. What are you earning? How much are you earning? What can your earnings cover for you? For some persons, they start to live beyond their means. For some persons, they live below their means. For some persons, they try to find a balance because they're trying to build for their future. I, for example, I advise several persons that if, when it comes to the subject of earning for any young person, you should try to live below your means, and whatever excess that is left, you focus on it towards the future. If you want to make more, if you want to get an improved standard of living, of course, try and make more money. And the more money you make, the more improved your standard of living can be, the more larger your standard of living can be. So before you start to think of the big things, the big cars, the big life, the fancy life, think of how you can balance your finance. Think of how you can balance your growth. Think of how you can balance your finance. As a young person, you must balance your finance. So before you start to have dreams, before you start to have aspirations, before you start to have all of those ideas shot inside of you, think of how you can balance your finance. And for the third time again, I'll say it. Before you start to think of all of the big lives, all of the costly and expensive things, think of how you can balance your life. And moving on to my next point. But if you are, I think I'll take a break here. I'll take a break here and I'll try to confirm if we are learning. I would have loved to do a Q&A. If you have any questions, you have any questions for some of the things I'm talking about so far, of course, I'll be happy to oblige your questions. It's a live session, so I'm available to answer any questions that you may have, anything relating to some of the things I've said before. And let me move on to my fourth point, which is identity crisis. If you've ever suffered from identity crisis, you would know what I'm talking about. Many persons are many persons don't know who they are. Many persons are struggling so much to find who they are. Many persons don't realize what they are meant to be doing. Many persons struggle so much with finding a balance between what they are meant to be doing and what they are currently doing. Many persons have the problem of who am I becoming really? What is my reality becoming like? What is the person I'm gradually becoming? For some persons, they don't even realize these things until they are much older, say in their late 30s, and they start to realize that what have I been doing for all these years? What have I been doing since all these years? What do I have tangible to show for it? I think it's important that you identify who you are, you discover who you are from the get go. From this point when you are much younger, you need to identify yourself. You need to identify your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats. You need to define some of those things, put those things in place. You need to identify your direction in life. What is it that you want for your life? Even if you don't have all of the details, you must have an idea of where you are going. And that's the whole point of it. The idea gives you a direction, a sense of direction to say, okay, I won't be wasting time on this. I'll be spending my time trying to do what is truly really valuable for me. So many persons spend their time trying to discover who they are. They spend many years trying to discover who they are. And before they realize it, they've figured out that time has gone and they've made very little or zero impact in life. And this is one of the biggest problems that the older generations are suffering from. Many other generations they don't have legacies to leave behind for their kids. They don't have legacies to leave behind for us, their kids. I mean, look at your parents, look at your uncles, look at those before them. Scarcely will you find persons who have something tangible to leave behind. They don't have any inheritance to leave behind. They don't have any name to keep. They don't have anything to defend. Many of these persons don't have anything. And it feels like as if the young person just starts to struggle and starts to push all of these things from the scratch. That is the reality for many young persons. We have identity crisis here. We have serious identity crisis here. We start to realize that, man, what is it that I should be doing? What is my identity? What is it that where should I find myself in? What area should I work? Many persons think, oh, maybe I should join the military, I should become a soldier. Many persons think, oh, maybe I should start a business, maybe that's what's going to work. And they start a business. All of a sudden, they realize that, oh, I don't think this business thing is working. I think I need to get a job. I need to get a sales job. They start the sales job. They realize that, oh, maybe sales is not for me. Maybe I need to get a marketing job. Some person like that, oh, maybe marketing is not for me. Maybe it's management. Maybe it's IT. Maybe it's all kinds of things. You start them jumping from one point to the other. Many persons switch careers several times within a decade. They switch careers several times within a decade, just trying to find their place in life. And really, I don't know if you can relate with some of these things, but you find persons who find so much difficulties in figuring out who they are in life. And it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem when you start to turn into the adulthood phase. When you start to become an adult, you start to realize that these things are proving difficult. These things are proving hard. These things are proving, you don't even know who you are. And I've never suffered from identity crisis before, but I've met several persons who they had a plan originally. They had something that they wanted to do for themselves. But then it got to a point that they realized that, man, I don't think I should be doing this. They go for therapies and they start to get all sorts of ideas, start to get all sorts of things cooked up in their head. And eventually they change their minds again and say, oh, maybe I should do this instead. Maybe I should do that instead. Maybe I should hop on this instead. Maybe I should hop on that instead. You realize that all through the while, you've not found something defining for yourself. And that's the point of it. If you don't have something defining for yourself, then there's a huge problem. There's a huge problem when you've not defined your path in life. And I think it's very important that many persons realize this very early in life. You realize what your identity is. And how do you figure these things out? Ask yourself, what is my identity? It's as simple as that. Some persons try to complicate it and they tell you, oh, you have a purpose, you have a destiny. Give me a second, let me take some water. All right. So they start to ask themselves, what is my purpose? What is my destiny? We just overcomplicate some of these things. And there's no there's no point overcomplicating some of these things. What do your hands find doing? What do you find doing? What does your hand find doing? For some persons, maybe it's in your academics, it's in academics, and you find so much flair in helping people study, helping people learn. Why don't you start with that? Why don't you do that? Start to dig deep. There's definitely something in there for you. I don't believe that everyone or anyone is born without something defining for their lives. I don't believe anyone is born without something defining for their lives. You need to figure out, what do you have talents for? What do you have a flair for? What are the things that you can do easily? What are the things that comes true to you? What are the things that comes easily to you? For some persons, it's talking. Maybe like myself, it's talking, although I don't like talking as much. But for some persons, it could be talking. For some persons, it could be teaching. For some persons, it could be streaming online. Maybe you're a gamer, you are a content creator, maybe you are someone who just likes to have fun. Try to find your purpose in those things. Try to find your reality in those things. For some, it can be any sort of thing. Try to find your purpose in those things. Define those things. Narrow it down. How will you do something that your heart is not in? How will you say you want to do something and your heart is not in gear? If your heart is not in gear, then there's no point in doing that thing because it's not for you, it's not your part. You need to realize what your identity is. Realize who you are. Ask yourself the hard questions. What would I be doing in the next 5 years? Where do I find myself in the next 5 years? Where do I find myself in the next 10 years? What would my future self say to me right now if he sees me? What will my younger self say to me right now if he sees me? What are the dreams and the aspirations that you have when you were much younger? What are the things that you wanted to do? Are you still doing those things? Are you still in line with those things? Start to figure out some of those things. Start to put them together. Put the pieces together. You start to make sense of it. Really, you start to make sense of it. You start to see that life is, it can be quite challenging. It can be quite difficult. It can be quite taxing. But then you start to find the pleasures and the joy in it. You just find the pleasures and the joy in this. Oluwafunke says mine is teaching. Amazing, amazing. So you start to find the pleasures in doing those things that you love, those things that you are talented to do. Say, for example, for some persons, maybe it's just advising others. Maybe like myself, I like speaking to younger persons. I like speaking to persons in their 20s and in their 30s. I like telling them this is not how you should be living your life. There's so much more in the bank. There's so much more potential within you. I like to tell young people these things, and I find so much pleasure, so much joy in these things. What are the things that you find pleasure in? Do those things. That is when you start to find purpose. That is when you start to find yourself. That is when you start to discover who you are. And it doesn't matter where you are. Wherever you are in the world, you're in Russia, you're in Asia, you're in Europe, you're in Africa, you're in America, wherever you find yourself, you can find your purpose in there. And eventually you become a shining beacon to the rest of the world. And that's the whole point of it. Look at all of the persons that have won the Hall of Fame. Look at the persons that have become popular. Look at all of the persons that we know nowadays. All of the celebrities, the people that we look up to. They started from a point. They found themselves. They discovered themselves. And they gradually started to work and build from there. Why don't you discover something today? Enough of identity crisis. Enough of trying to figure out who you are, trying to run a task scatter. Oh, this person says that about me, this person says this about me. And we start to try to find a balance in all of those things. There's no point in all these things. There's no point. Figure out who you are, find yourself, challenge yourself, build yourself from the scratch, and you start to make gradual differences in your life. I hope someone has learned from my fourth outline, and I've shared four amazing outlines of how you can start to find yourself, some of the realities of adulthood, and how you can start to find yourself. Number one, I said the illusion versus the reality. What is our illusion when we were much younger? What was our dreams? What did we think we would achieve when we were much younger versus the reality we are currently facing? The next one was the pressure of time. The pressure of time. The third one is financial reality. I just talked about identity crisis in adulthood. And number five, the loneliness of growing up. The loneliness of growing up. Really, I'm not even sure where to start on this one. I'm not sure when to start on this one. For many persons, when you start to grow up, you start to see that adulthood is lonely. Adulthood is lonely. Everyone starts to get really busy. Everyone starts to get fixated on their lives. Everyone starts to do something about their lives. No one has the time to hang around. No one has time to gist. No one has time to hang out and do all sorts of the things that we used to do when you were much younger. I mean, when you were a kid, you go to the park, you go to the playing ground, you see your friends, you hop, you dance, you do all those kinds of things. But now that we start to get older, everyone starts to become responsible for themselves. Everyone starts to do one or two things for their lives. Say, for example, some persons work a job, some persons are trying to keep a job, some persons are doing different kinds of things. Some persons are working 9 to 5, some persons are maybe out of the country, some persons are doing, the people are doing all sorts of things. And you just realize that, man, this adulthood is lonely. And I can understand, I can relate with it completely. You see, there are fewer friends, there's deeper isolation, there's emotional distance. It's one of the biggest realities that many persons they subtly ignore. They subtly ignore some of those things. What some persons do to try and crop some of these things, they start to find a partner, maybe start to find a friend or something, and they have a fixed culture. Say, for example, every Fridays you go for partying, every Saturdays you go hang out with friends, every Sundays you meet for dinner and things like that. People try to find cultures and systems around these things, and they put those things in place. But really, it's a it's one of the biggest realities that many persons have not started to realize yet. And I think if you are truly intentional, you can find a way around it. You can find a way around building away your loneliness. And I mean, in the age of internet, where there is the internet, the social media, everyone tries to find fun, everyone tries to catch fun, everyone starts to connect to persons. Say, for example, you can be kilometers or miles away, and you still find a way to connect with your friends, your family, your loved ones who are great distances away. And it becomes a matter of, okay, I think these things can work this way, these things can work that way. But I think one thing you should also take note of is that there won't be any case of somebody telling you what to do. Let me explain what I mean. I mean, as you gradually start to get older, people start to think, or people start to know consciously that you should be responsible for yourself. Less will you start to find will you start to find people telling you what to do. I mean, even you won't want people to tell you what to do. Even you won't want people to tell you what to do. You would want to do things yourself. You want to be the captain of your ship. You want to be the one determining what path you want to go. And I mean, that's the reality of adulthood. That's the reality of where we currently are. But then it now matters that what kinds of decisions are you able to make when you're on your own? What kinds of decisions are you able to define or decide when you're on your own? Maybe when you're much younger, you have people to tell you what to do. You have people to guide you. You have people to walk your hand or hold your hand and walk you through. You have people to do all of these things for you. But now that you're much older, how can you get some of these things done? How can you do some of these things? I think those are questions we need to start asking ourselves. Now that I'm older, what are the things I should do for myself? What are the things that I've been expecting from people? But now that I've gotten much older, I should be doing some of these things for myself. Those are some of the questions we need to start to ask ourselves. And I mean, like we said, it's one of the realities of adulthood. Some of these things are not things that you can pick up in a day. Some of these things are gradual. Some of these things are things that you gradually walk into. But you need to start to consciously note that you need change. You need to make change for your life. And the sixth one is the career confusion and instability. Career confusion and instability. Many persons don't know what they want for their lives. Give me 1 second. Man. So many persons don't know what they want for their lives. For some persons, all right. Apologies about that. Let me just confirm everyone can still hear me. before I continue. I think my internet tripped. Um, okay, I think we are good to go. I think I'm back. I'm back. Yes, apologies about that. I think my internet tripped. Okay, amazing, amazing. All right, so I was talking about career confusion and instability. You see, several persons want to be different kinds of things. You want to become all sorts of things. You start to switch from one career path to another career path. You start to ask yourself questions like, man, what should I be doing? What pays more? What does more? And although these things are important, I mean, considering the economy, considering the things that we are currently facing in our society, but you should realize that career crisis or career confusion is one of the signs of you currently getting into adulthood. It's one of the signs that you are getting into a stage in your life. You're getting to that stage of your life, and you need to start to figure out these things fast. You need to start to figure out these things fast because the earlier you figure it out, the better it gets for you. And then my next one, which is my seventh outline, is responsibility overload. Responsibility overload. I'd love to dwell a bit here before I continue. And I'll talk a bit about responsibility. You see, I was saying earlier in this video that for some persons, responsibility is defined as you having to become responsible for other persons. In Africa, yeah, responsibility connotes, or our culture connotes, that you should be responsible for your family, for your siblings, especially if you're the firstborn. Responsible for your family, your siblings. You should be responsible for your extended family. You should be responsible for every single person that comes around you, which is really crazy. I mean, start to ask yourself, I've never even fed myself. I've not fed myself enough. Now I'm getting to become responsible for other persons. I've not fed myself sufficiently, and I need to take care of this person, take care of that person. It just gets very overwhelming. It gets very overwhelming. You see, there's family expectations, there's bills you have to pay, there's decisions you have to make, there's the constant pressure. There's the constant pressure weighing down on you to deliver. And if you don't deliver, there's usually a problem. There is usually that responsibility overload. Everyone wants you to do something for them. Everyone wants you to achieve something for them. Everyone is always asking you, man, when will you respond to me? When will you do this? When will you do that? There's so much struggle at work. I was describing for someone before a couple of weeks back, and I was explaining to the person that there's just lots of struggles, particularly for many young persons. You see, at work, your bosses are pressurizing you or laying pressure on you that you have to deliver your work, you have to do X, Y, Z, you have to do X, Y, Z, and you leave work, you get home, you start to get calls from family, you have to deliver, you have to do this and that. For some persons who are not emotionally stable or financially stable, you realize that this thing becomes a huge problem. It becomes a lot of work, and it becomes so much that you want to give up. Some persons fall into suicide. I've literally seen persons kill themselves because of responsibility overload, because these things are too much. Everyone is expecting so much for them, and there's very little they can deliver. Really, some persons don't even bother asking adults if they can really deliver some of these things that they are promising they can do. Some persons don't bother asking them if these things are comfortable for them. I mean, who's burden? Everyone is concerned about what enters their pocket or what you can do for them. No one cares about what they can do for you. No one cares about what you can get from them. They're concerned about what they can get from you, what you can give to them, and several things like that. And it's a huge problem. It's a huge dilemma because you see, many persons don't realize that these persons are humans too. If you don't give them time sufficient enough to develop themselves to that capacity, then you are putting them under so much pressure that can become harmful. And it's one of the biggest realities of adulthood. Many persons, the moment they start to see responsibility, then you know that you've gotten to the level of adulthood. You know you're in your 20s and your 30s. You know you've gotten to that stage of your life. Really, responsibilities, hardships, pressure, so much pressure to deliver. Pressure from family, pressure from work, pressure from every single person. And it becomes so overwhelming that it can get you confused, it can get you in lots of trouble. I've seen this thing happen again and again and again and again. You see, someone I used to know. There's someone I think I lost his contact on board, but I still know him. Who he got to a point where he had to become responsible for his family. He had to become responsible for every single person in his family because he was the only guy in the house. They had lost their dad a couple of years back, and he had gotten older to get a job. His mom was no longer working. His siblings were still in school, and he was the one that was much older. So of course he needs to fend for his family. he needs to feed his siblings, he needs to send them to school. It just became so much. His siblings were going to enter into college, and there was just so much of pressure, so much pressure, so much pressure on that guy. I mean, poor guy. You see, another important thing that you should take note of when responsibility starts to beckon, when responsibility starts to call on you, particularly at this phase, is that you should realize that, see, you should be given enough time. And I mean, it's not just for you to realize, right? But it's for you to put your feet on the ground. I mean, you have your life you are building. You have your life that you are gradually developing. You have your own future you are building. You have something you are building for yourself. You can't just let everybody come and take away everything. You have just let everybody come, take. No, you need to set boundaries. And boundaries are very, very important. You need to set boundaries for yourself. You need to set boundaries for your life. You need to be able to tell people that, see, this XYZ is what I can do. If you cannot accept what I have, then please, you have to, maybe you have to cut ties. And I think, I mean, it's the hard truth. It's the hard truth. These are some of the things I had to do. These are some of the things I had to enforce eventually. And people will come to accept you for who you are. Of course, people can say you are wicked. People can say you are harsh. People can say you are not a nice person. They can say all sorts of things, but really, people can say anything. But you need to figure out what you want for yourself. If you just want to keep giving, never build anything tangible, that's also fine. You can keep giving. You just realize that responsibility keeps getting more and more and more. If there's one thing I've realized since I became an adult, I realized that responsibilities does not reduce. You see, there are sometimes when I tell myself, it's a lie, of course, but I tell myself that, oh man, maybe if I do this now, next month or next 2 months or the next 6 months, I won't hear from anybody or nobody will disturb me. But I realized that the next month or the very next day, these guys come knocking and they're asking for more, they're asking for more. They just keep asking. I mean, our needs and wants as human beings does not die down. It does not get satiated. You just have to keep on meeting those needs. And that's the whole point of it. If you cannot set boundaries, then there's problem. Then there is serious problem. So I've talked about four outlines. I've talked about seven outlines. Seven things that defines our adulthood. Seven things that defines we are gradually getting into that phase of adulthood. Like I said, I'm going to talk about 10 things, so we still have three more. But I want to reiterate about the seven things I've talked about. Number one is the illusion versus the reality of adulthood. Number two is the pressure of time. Number three is financial reality. Financial reality. What is your financial reality? Number four is the identity crisis. Number five is the loneliness of growing up. The loneliness of growing up. Number six is the career confusion and instability. Number seven is the responsibility overload. And then number eight is the mental health and emotional fatigue. The mental health and emotional fatigue. If you've ever been challenged emotionally, let me see your hands up. If you've ever been challenged, really, if you've ever been challenged emotionally, you would realize that it's very synonymous to young persons or persons stepping into adulthood. Now, I'm not talking about just anybody. I'm talking about persons that have been hurt emotionally. I mean, it becomes a very emotional phase of our lives. Not just you being in a relationship, not just you having a fiancé, a boyfriend, a girlfriend. No, I'm not just talking about those things. But it becomes so emotional challenging that you start to have so much burnout. Think of all of the things I've listed before, all of the seven outlines I've listed before. If it's your finance, if it's your financial, if it's your finance, if it's the pressure of time, if it's your identity crisis, all of those things can get you thinking in the night. All of those things can get you up in the night, and you start to ask yourself that, man, when would all of these things end? When would my life finally find balance? And it's crazy. It's crazy, really. It's crazy that you start to realize that many persons are suffering for some of these things, and they are suffering silently. It starts to give so much mental health challenges. It starts to give so much emotional challenges. They start to become less emotional. Start to become less emotional. They start to become less of themselves. They start to become less dependent on other persons. They start to become cold. They start to become defensive, and several things. Like all of these things are signs that these persons are getting mentally or emotionally challenged. And you need to start to realize some of these things, especially if you are crossing from your 20s to your 30s. So, mental and emotional fatigue is one of those things, one of those huge signs, those biggest signs that you are gradually crossing that phase. Number nine is the relationships in adulthood. The relationships in adulthood. As an adult, we expect that you are not just dating for friendship, you are not just having friends, you are dating for the purpose of marriage, or you see, there are different kinds of relationships that you have as adults. There are different kinds of relationships that you have as adults. For some persons, really, they see it in different lights. but I'll try and be generic as much as I can so that I don't ignore some persons. But really, what I wrote down here is dating, marriage pressure, betrayal, expectations. There's so much expectations, and I'll start from there. There's so much expectations from relationships. I mean, you are dating someone, you are with someone who is, you expect so much from that person, but that person is not able to give as much as you want. Say for example, as a lady, you're dating a guy and you expect him to maybe care for your financial needs, you expect him to care for some things, you expect him to buy stuff for you, you expect him to become emotional. Sorry, I said emotional. You expect him to become romantic, you're expecting to become someone who is able to do stuff for you, but he's not that kind of person. He's not doing those things that you thought he would do. And you start to get angry, you start to get really angry, you start to get pissed that maybe he doesn't love you, maybe he doesn't. All of these things are signs of adulthood. They are signs that we are gradually getting to this phase. They are signs of this phase. And you see, things like marriage, things like dating, things like a relationship instability, all of these things are pressure. All of these things are things that connote that we are getting to that phase of our lives. That phase of our life. So how you handle it really determines how well it gets for you. For some persons, they don't handle it well. I must be honest. Some persons don't handle it well. Some persons take it tit for tat. Some persons just handle it so violently. Some persons take it so violently. They handle relationships so violently. Maybe because they had parents who say, for example, we're always fighting, we're always yelling at each other, we're always quarreling against each other, and they feel that this is what marriages look like. This is what relationships look like. Of course, this is the kind of relationship I would end up having. That is what you will end up having because that is the mindset you have built from your mind. And I think one of the things that you can do to try to balance some of these things is that you also understand what you're looking for in a relationship. You also understand what you are looking for in an adulthood relationship. For some persons, you are looking for marriage. Start to find someone who you can get married to and things like that. So when you start to look around, when you start to walk into relationships, you are going to relationships with the mindset of marriage. There are many persons who are not ready for marriage. Many persons are not ready for marriage. So you try to avoid those persons as much as you can. First, try to avoid those persons wherever you find them as much as you can. My point is, as an adult, as someone in your 20s and 30s, you need to be balanced in these areas. You need to be balanced in these areas. And whatever approach you want to take, really, whatever approach you want to take, it's totally on you. It's for you to decide. But you need to ensure that your past mistakes are not what is currently defining you. Your past experiences, the experiences of your parents, the experiences of people around you, your community, your society, are not what would end up defining you. And that's very essential because most of the times you realize that some of our past experiences are not good. Our past experiences are really, really not good. They are filled with violence or they are filled with hardship, they are filled with several things like that. You must get the clear difference. You must understand the clear difference and differentiate some of these things. And then finally, finding meaning and direction. Finding meaning and direction, which is very spiritual for persons in their adulthood. I added this as the last point because it gets very spiritual for many persons, and that is finding meaning and direction. For some persons, adulthood is all about finding meaning for their life. They want to find what path should they walk in life, what direction should they walk in life. For some persons, it gets so spiritual that they get to do all those kinds of things. I don't want to go in there. I mean, we're not talking about spiritual stuff here. That's for that. But really, it's about finding purpose, building faith, building a life that actually matters. Some persons want to live life that matters. Some persons want to lead life that matters. They want to leave a legacy behind. And I mean, you've been listening to me for the past 1 hour. I asked you, what kinds of legacy do you want to leave? What kinds of legacy are you building as a young person? I mean, I will spend hours and hours on live sessions, creating content, trying to get all of these engagements. What kinds of legacy am I trying to leave? And of course, I want to leave a positive legacy. I want to tell the world that I tried. I did something valuable. I mean, I tried to build in this direction. I try to develop people in this direction. Now let me ask you, what kinds of legacy are you leaving? What kinds of footprints are you leaving behind in the world? And the sooner you start to realize some of these things, the better it gets for you because it gives your life a sense of clarity, a sense of purpose, a sense of direction, a sense of being, and you start to realize what exactly you should be doing for yourself. It's very important for everyone. I think it's very important that everyone starts to realize some of these things, and the earlier you realize it, the better it is for you. And those are my 10 outlines. Those are my 10 outlines. If you can put your hands together, if you can give a heart emoji, if you can give whatever reaction you can give, just give your reaction. Well, we've come to the end of this live session. But very quickly, let me just go over all of the outlines I gave. I said number one, the illusion versus the reality of adulthood. What was our illusion when gradually getting to this stage of our lives, and what is now the reality of adulthood? Number two is the pressure of time. The pressure of time that we are being left behind and everyone seems ahead. Number three is the financial reality. What is the financial reality? What are the things that we are challenged with financially, whether it's debt, whether it's survival, cost of independence, and several things like that. Number four is identity crisis. Identity crisis. I said some persons suffer from identity crisis in adulthood. Number five is the loneliness of growing up. Some persons feel so lonely growing up. I mean, when you start to get to that stage of your adulthood, you get so lonely. Number six is the career confusion and instability. Number seven is responsibility overload. Number eight is mental health and emotional fatigue. Number nine is relationships in adulthood. And number 10 is finding meaning and direction. I trust it was very exciting session. For those that stayed from start to finish, thank you so much. I love you guys. I love you guys. You guys are wonderful. And for everyone that is listening to this after the recording, I love you guys as well. You guys are wonderful. So please don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you are notified every single time we come online. Thank you so much, guys. And do have a good evening wherever you're joining from. Cheers, guys. Bye.